we can. I think we can go to the phone lines. I can join journalist, broadcaster, South Asia analyst. Aftab Siddiqui is there, I hope. Aftab, thanks for joining us on Insight, known to many of our viewers already, I know. I hope that's not your other phone ringing, Aftab. We'll talk about Pakistan in a moment, but can we just talk a little bit about Brexit, first of all? So much around this story, Aftab. Where do you think we as a country sit at the moment, just a week to go now until that vote in the Commons that Theresa May faces to get her plan pushed through?
Yeah, thanks, Chetan, for having me on the show. And I think where we stand as a country is a very important juncture, because I think people are talking about another election coming through, but I feel that the election, and if it puts a new person in 10 Downing Street, would not resolve any of the issues. The issues would remain the same. And probably the problem we are facing is we are not facing a problem where we are going to divorce from one Brexit, we are from one European Union. We're facing a dilemma of divorcing from 27 nations, which we were in relationship for the last 40 years. So it's not an easy solution to a problem which any other man or woman would have ever seen. And an election would never resolve the issues we are facing. I think probably it is like it's something which started with a referendum, and we are in that situation. There's no reason that we cannot go back to the public again to get their views in terms of where the country should go next, because when the Brexit referendum happened, we never knew what are the counters of the deal would be, what could entail, and how we would get out of the European Union. Now things are pretty clear, and people can make more informed choice than before. So I think that's where I would suggest that one should have a hard and a bit more, I would say, informed view of the situation.
You're a supporter, are you, of a
quagmire at the moment, basically, because we are in a very difficult situation as a country, and we cannot just take this decision lightly. It's very important that all factors are taken care of, measured, and then the next stage of the journey for this country should be taken, and the steps should be taken towards that.
Michael Gove was speaking, the Environment Secretary now, of course, one of the chief Brexiteers, was talking about there being a real risk, in his words, of no Brexit at all if Theresa May does not get her vote put through in the Commons on the 11th of December. Remember, that is when, after 5 days of debates, MPs will vote on whether Theresa May's plan for Brexit should be approved. At the moment, a lot of conjecture, a lot written around this. We don't know for sure how MPs will vote, but we know it's looking very tricky for Theresa May to get what she wants to go through. And then we stand, as Aftab was saying there, at this crossroads of exactly where do we go next. There is very much a dilemma. Aftab, you've made no secret. You think that another referendum is the answer. Michael Gove was saying on the BBC's Andrew Marr show that he thinks that's a possibility if Theresa May doesn't get her vote, and if MPs don't put it through for her. What do you think that means for Theresa May, Aftab, personally? Do you think she can survive it? Many saying that if she loses this vote, she's effectively lost the confidence of her party and has to go. Where do you stand on that?
I think I would not subscribe to that idea of her going out, because this is not a no confidence motion. It's a vote. Okay, if she loses that, we are in a fixed term parliament governance, basically. So it does not necessarily mean that the no confidence only can work through, because if the committee gets 40 votes within Conservative, and that would basically trigger something which would jeopardize a situation or a position as a prime minister. This vote would not. But what this vote would do is it would kick the ball back into the long grass, and she may go back to the commission and asking for some kind of review of the deal. And commission may come back and say, okay, fine, we could do that, but it's not possible within the next few months. It would be another 2 years before we would consider that. So we will still be half in, half out in the European Union. And that's probably the city where I am at the moment. The country as generally has been gone through enough of what you call uncertainty, and probably that needs to be brought down, basically. And that is again coming back to the people's vote discussion. And you are in this game for a very long time, Chetan. You can take the public pulse and you can give a very good analysis of where and how things may stand out. They may not be exactly the way you describe it, but generally they fall in line with what your analysis And, my view is that what I'm seeing at the moment is it's very difficult for her to get it through. She would go back 2 years more of uncertainty, and probably the demand for the public vote may increase a little bit louder. You remember, the last time we spoke, there were more than 700,000 people in the streets of London, basically demanding a people's vote. And, if we look at the Brexit, it was a marginal vote only. It wasn't like, outright, Brexit. It was marginally won by one side. And in democracy, there's no issue, basically, in terms of going back to the people, because we go back to the people, to the ballot box every 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the situation.
And that is somewhere, Aftab, that you have come in on in the past. Of course, you've made no secret of saying the public should be allowed to vote again. Are we on the no confidence issue? Labour has said it will table a no confidence motion in the government if MPs vote down Theresa May's deal. The shadow Brexit secretary, Sir Keir Starmer, said if the Prime Minister has lost a vote of that significance, then there has to be a question of confidence in the government. He would say that, as the shadow Brexit secretary has to be said, but it's interesting to see where these arguments may well come from if she loses the vote, because as we know, Jeremy Corbyn is pining very much for there to be an election in which he gets elected. And then, of course, Labour hasn't taken off the table, hasn't given us a huge amount of detail about whether or not we may indeed find ourselves in another referendum situation, which is what Michael Gove is talking about there being a danger of. It's interesting with Michael Gove, too, that he, on the contrary to what you said, Aftab, feels that if we all voted again and if there was another vote, he thinks there'd be an even bigger win for Leave. I know lots of people would disagree with that. We'll keep an eye on Brexit. It's a huge day next Tuesday when MPs will vote on Theresa May's plan. And if she loses that, the debate will only get bigger and we will have many, many questions, more than answers, I suspect, if the vote does not go her way. Before you go, Aftab, and before we go to a break, let's just talk a little bit about Pakistani politics. Of course, that is your area of expertise, what happens in South Asia. You and I have talked about Imran Khan before. I just wanted to see what you made of his comments. I mean, Pakistan, we know, has huge financial issues that it needs to tackle at the moment, and like all South Asian countries, poverty is one of them too. He made this comment, of course, about chickens and giving chickens and providing eggs and chickens to rural women in particular to help people grow themselves out of poverty. It's not a new idea. He's not pretending it's a new idea, but there was some ridicule to it on social media, as we've come to expect for all political policies, and that is a lot of politics at play. But what did you make of Imran Khan going down this line and mentioning something that Bill Gates has mentioned before, using poultry to alleviate poverty?
I think in terms of, the general idea, because Chetan, the economy has different segments within it. You've got people who are linked into the high end of the economy, and they're linked into the fifth economic model or revolution, we call it, Wi-Fi and new technology. And there are people who live in rural areas where they do have no access to that. So their way of getting out of poverty is basically livestock. So I think there are ways and means to implement those programs. And if I mention that even Oxfam has a big program going on basically in various different poor countries, where they are promoting livestock breeding and livestock management within the rural areas. So you have to bring the different segments of the economy together and work in a programmatic manner, so that you are able to harness the powers and the resources which lies within each one of those segments of the economy. So Pakistan greatly is an agrarian economy, and huge population live within the rural area. So that's where I think that thought process comes from, because those people have got the expertise in terms of managing livestock and managing their land and working through the livestock to get to better means and earning their living. So I think there is a view in terms of where it has merit. I think Imran is really facing a very difficult press at the moment in Pakistan because of the situation where they stopped a lot of government advertising going down to the media, and that is having a bit of hit on the media's general revenue stream. And I think
Aftab,
that is being shown because yeah, sorry.
no, I was just going to ask you before I didn't mean to cut you short because we're going to head to a break shortly. What did you make of his tweet in response? Because some people mocked him saying, oh gosh, this is nothing new. And Microsoft's Bill Gates, of course, has talked about this in the past as well. Imran Khan then tweeted, he said, for the colonized minds, when Desis talk about chickens combating poverty, they get mocked. But when Westerners talk about Desi chicken and poverty, it's brilliance. Does he have a point? Do you think it was someone choosing to mock him but not Bill Gates when he mentioned it?
I think it's easy to mock him because he is in a political kind of entity. So it's easy that people take different sides when he says something. And there's a certain segment of media in Pakistan which is very against of Imran Khan since they started off. So I think there is, and I think that tweet does. I have given you the example of Oxfam, so you know these things happen. So yeah, I think that's true that we should be a little bit more open to the ideas. And he's not claiming that it's its own idea, but it's an idea which has been implemented previously.
Aftab Siddiqui, thank you so much, South Asia analyst, journalist and broadcaster. Thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts. We're going to head to a break in a second. I just wanted to give you an idea of a tweet from the PTI, Khan's party, of course, which tweeted that Microsoft founder Bill Gates launched a campaign to help extremely poor families in Africa by giving them chickens. However, when PM Imran Khan talks about it, it becomes an issue. The party then said propagandists really can't rise above their hate, and that was the official party. But then others choosing to tweet saying, dear Imran Khan, my chicken didn't lay an egg today, please give them an injection. And another tweet, someone saying, eggs, chickens, more chickens, what nonsense, please bring some realist policies to elevate the lives of the poor. So as you'd expect on social media.